Last week on the Poisonrana Patreon, we talked all about Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, in a brand new episode of Up Yours.
And they are in Times Square.
And it's okay. Again, one of them's lost their uncle, one's lost their dad. They've lost all of their friends at this point. They've lost a teacher.
Everyone is dead.
Everyone is dead. This is horrific. They should be traumatized. And then they're like, wow, New York City. And they're looking around Times Square and it's, wow, isn't this magical? Look at the bright lights and the buildings.
All right, did you get a good little laugh about one of the shots here showing, because it's 1988 or 1989 whenever they filmed this, showing like some of the same billboards and stuff are still there and everything, but you got Batman 1989 coming soon on a big thing. Sparrow.
Oh, yeah.
Sparrow Italian eatery for a New York slice.
Oh, yeah.
You think Jason comes out of there and he goes, huh, New York pizza's supposed to be good, and that's where he goes.
Get this show plus NXT retro reviews, wrestling reviews, movie reviews, and so much more over at patreon.com/poisonrana, and it's only $5, so what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
Poisonrana.
Hello.
Hello.
Braden Herrington here with Davie Portman for Poisonrana. You found us in whatever podcast app you are listening to. And of course, it's Sunday, 2 p.m., which means we are
live on youtube.com/@PoisonRanaPod. Hello, YouTube room. How we doing?
Hello, all our poison pals. Our little where are frogs at? I see some people in the YouTube chat already.
Job Knobbly.
Yeah, Job Knobbly always in the chat with the sick emoji. When we had asked him once, what does this mean? And he said, because we're sick. So thank you.
He's poisoned by us.
Yeah, that's right. He's poisoned by us. And we're about to hit you with some poison for the next little while, talking all about some pro wrestling and everything going on this week with Grand Slam. We got some Bad Blood. The wrestling never stops. The wrestling never really stops. It feels like a quiet week, but it's just a quiet week, which is building up to
bigger weeks
that'll just never stop. And obviously, up next, we go live every Tuesday. We got our hands full the next little while with a lot of eyes on NXT. So be sure to follow us over on postwrestling.com and all those formats there, because we'll be live on the next few Tuesdays covering the CW in the next little bit. So we're definitely excited with all the wrestling, but that's not all the wrestling that we talk about. We talk about everything, especially.
And as always, we are live. So if there are any issues, we're recording remotely today. Please let us know in the chat so we can sort it out. We don't like hearing that no one could hear us after the show. So let us know in real time. Thank you. Please. And thank you.
We love StreamYard, but they've since raised or doubled their prices, and then now there seems to be issues, and we've never really had issues with them before, and then now it's just like your favorite food establishment starts double charging for the sandwich you would get, and then all of a sudden the sandwich is kind of shit now. And you're like, hey, what's going on with that? I actually prefer the way things were before. So hopefully things work out, but yeah, we are here live. As we always do, hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Follow along on the socials. We have an Instagram. Go give us a follow, X, and all that fun stuff. The Facebook group is how you can also stay informed. We haven't done any. We're not doing a live event for Bad Blood, but I feel like it's a pay-per-view people are definitely still interested in. But I know come wintertime, that's definitely a good idea to do some more watch parties and hang out, because people are mostly want to be inside again.
Absolutely. I mean, we'd love to do an event for Bad Blood, and there's definitely interest there. However, we've got a lot going on that weekend. You're moving. I've got people visiting me, so it's a little difficult to arrange this one. But yes, watch this space. We do have some things cooking for later in October and towards the end of the year. So if you are in the Toronto area, keep following us. Keep following all our socials and stuff, because we will let you know everything we have planned going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you can hear all of our other podcasts that we do over on our Patreon. You may have heard the bumper earlier talking about Jason Takes Manhattan. But with all this talk of who's going to WWE and who's signed and this and that, I'm sure that we'll get into. We thought we'd get everybody caught up to speed on the Motor City Machine Guns. We did a best match ever podcast just the other day, released over on our Patreon, where you and I went through the history and best matches of the Guns. And we even, you got a list of like matches and links to them and everything. And then we went through Ring of Honor, TNA, New Japan, and beyond that to talk about the Machine Guns. So we're definitely caught up, and hopefully we get to see some of their spectacular fast moves in WWE coming soon, maybe against the Lucha Bros.
Absolutely. I mean, it seems that their debut is imminent. The word is heading to NXT. We've obviously got some big NXT shows coming up soon. I'm pretty sure we'll see them within the month. But that gives you guys plenty of time. As Braden mentioned, we've posted the links to all these matches, so you can check them out and then listen to what we think about it. And it was a pretty fun show going through the career of the Machine Guns.
Yeah, like I've always been super familiar with them, and I was watching TNA at the time, so it was fun to kind of revisit some of that, but some classic like ROH battles and New Japan stuff that I've never seen before. So we had a lot of fun, as we usually do on Best Match Ever, where we go through this playlist and rate, review, and discuss which was our favorites and so forth. So we had a lot of fun, and for you Machine Gun fans, this is definitely one for you. And if you're not, like I said, get familiar, because I think we'll be seeing them pretty soon in the WWE or NXT. So that was a lot of fun. Our Jason Takes Manhattan show was a lot of fun. But if you've listened to us in the last little month or so, we put out episode 1 of The Champ Is Here. Now, we put it out on our Patreon, but we were so nice. We put it out for free on the Post Wrestling free feed. So if you haven't checked this out, go check that in your archives there. The Champ Is Here, where Davie and I were joined by Andrew Thompson and Nate Milton. And boy, that was a podcast. That was an all-timer for sure. But that was episode 1. Now it's time for episode 2. And that's what we're doing this week on the Patreon. We're talking about John Cena's second championship victory / reign. And we're going to be chatting all about John Cena on Monday Night Raw, feuding with the Rated R superstar. And we'll also be discussing the live sex celebration with our guest, Jordan Goodman, who happened to be at the live sex celebration live in attendance as a young teenager, I think, or something like that. So we'll be chatting about that. And we'll be joined by Grapple's Maddie Edwards in what is sure to be one hell of a hilarious podcast. Absolutely.
Yes. Not only are we looking at the title win, but the reign, and kind of discussing how this reign compares to his first reign as champion. This one has a huge title of defense against Triple H at WrestleMania 22, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, big match there, and we'll be going all the way through until him dropping the title later in that year. So yeah, we'll be looking at promo segments and matches and all the likes. And I have posted the list of everything we'll be looking at on our Patreon. So do make sure you get on that, log into your Peacock, log into your network, and just put this stuff on in the background so you can be all caught up for Cena Reign 2.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting looking back. Like it's kind of the reign of terror for some people. Like, yeah, he had like a few reigns in there that were like extremely long, but looking back, there were some good stuff that comes from that era. And even if the fans at the time maybe turned on him a little bit, I think they stuck through with the, Superman, he's never turning heel, never, ever going to turn on us. He's for the kids. He's for the children.
Very weird moment. I mean, it's been a while since I've watched this, but having the crowd choose Triple H over Cena in this match is pretty bizarre. Someone very well known for his reign of terror back in the day.
Yes. So that's going to be a great show coming out this week over on our Patreon. So all these shows, that equals to like pennies per podcast, because we got hundreds of shows, movie reviews, wrestling reviews, all on the Patreon. So go check us out, sign up, $5 to become a friend, and support your boys, support your independent podcasters here, and let us know what you think of the shows, because we've been having lots of fun, whether it's Jason taking Manhattan or a live sex celebration on Raw. I'm just really excited to talk about that.
Little bit more of housekeeping. We're going to be going through this week's WWE on this show, as well as AEW Dynamite and Collision, and give some predictions for Grand Slam. Unfortunately, no show next Sunday, as both of us are going to be rather busy. We've got a lot going on here in the BDE and what will be the future of the BDE. But I will be joined on Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. with B Detroit from our very own What Up Doe to kind of give our thoughts on AEW Grand Slam and kind of any news that's dropped in that week. Maybe we'll do a little talk about Raw as well, and if we have any news regarding, TV deals, contracts, all of that. So come hang out. We'll be going live at 3 p.m. on this very feed on Thursday, myself and B.
Yeah, depending on maybe how much time. I know the Vince McMahon doc comes out Wednesday, which I've now heard is like episodes, like a few episodes each. So
6 episodes, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So hopefully B and I can at least talk about episode 1 on that. And then the following Tuesday, I imagine you and I will probably finished it all.
Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely going to be watching that one right away. It's taking, like, me and you talk off air all the time about our love for the Netflix docs. Like, they've definitely, like, I thought in the last few years, Netflix really got me as they got all the best stand-ups and they just would produce specials. I'm like, that's great. Now they just produce like the best docs on like anything, whether it's like crime or true crime or like literally anything. So now that they're mixing like wrestling and like the whole, Vince story, this, like, I think a lot of deep fans are going to be checking this out.
I'm really curious to see how many non-wrestling fans are going to have an interest in this, because it is so heavily promoted on Netflix right now. Whenever I turn on my Netflix, and maybe that's my algorithm, but it's not like there's other real wrestling content on Netflix for it to be pushing it for me. But it's the front page every time I go on, and I know so many people just kind of click whatever's recommended on Netflix, and it's a new doc. Let's see what this is about. Which is, it's crazy because think this was originally a documentary, sort of, I guess, to kind of praise the life of Vince McMahon and what he's achieved with WWE, and Netflix, and at the time WWE being involved with Vince being involved, and then Netflix, purchasing WWE, and then this stuff comes out. So it's interesting that they're going ahead with it. They're not like having it hidden away. They're very much promoting this in a big way on Netflix. But there's got to be some, this is your new product that's coming. This is your big, like, your huge moving into live streaming. I know they've done some sports here and there, like F1, and they've got the NFL coming up and the Jake Paul fight with Tyson. But this is going to be a weekly show. And for the rest of the world, like multiple times a week, live content coming to Netflix, and they're putting a whole lot behind it. And are you worried about turning off your viewers by going, the owner of this was a bit of a sex pest and a pretty awful human being? So it's going to be interesting, because there's going to be an element of damage control. Pardon the pun, I'm not talking about EO Sky. But with this documentary, to kind of, in my mind, they're going to go, this is this guy, this is what he created, this is then what he did, and we are now washing our hands of him and having a clean slate. So I find it very interesting with how they're going to handle this whole thing. It kind of reminds me of 2 things. There was, what was it, Zero Dark 30, that the script was written, it was all filmed, and then like midway through filming, Osama bin Laden was killed. So they're like, we should probably try and add that bit on. And similar with the Lance Armstrong documentary, which was meant to be a documentary about, this cancer survivor winning the Tour de France multiple times. And then it comes out that, he was
a cheater
on PEDs and was a cheat, and they had to kind of change course with that. So I'm super interested for this documentary, not necessarily learning about Vince, but just the handling of Vince.
Yeah. As far as the Vince McMahon Netflix documentary goes, I think it's going to bring in a lot of viewers And I think they are going to do a lot of damage control, basically distancing themselves at the very end of this whole series. I'm sure they're going to be like, well, that was the old and we've gotten rid of him. And now look, things are different now. And we got all sorts of people running the show, and they're going to try to definitely distance themselves from this. But I mean, you're going to have a lot of interviews, I'm sure, of The Rock or John Cena or whoever, like still singing the praises. Like there's a lot of people who are millionaires and rich and famous because of, like, you know, Vince McMahon putting them on and pushing them and all that stuff. So you can see, and we know that people still have their affection and love for Vince at some level. But I think this doc, the trailer already showed us like things that were like, oh, they're going there. Okay. So it's not just like a fluff piece. It's definitely going to be covering some things. So as far as like casual viewers, I think this will bring in more people. And even if you're worried that like, oh, this could turn off a lot of people, I think in the other way, it'll actually bring more people in a weird, sick way, in a strange way, because say you have like friends who are like, oh, I know who Rey Mysterio is. I know who The Rock is. I watched when I was a kid. And then they watch this and they go, oh, that's what wrestling is around. Okay. Maybe I watch Netflix next week or next month on Netflix and see, you know, watch Raw or something. I think just having it still in your brain, like, oh, that's what wrestling. He's not in it anymore. He's not, you know, they're going to make that very, very clear. Like Vince is gone, and they're going to push that so far to make you maybe want to come back to wrestling.
I think there's something as well where we all have it. Like everyone listening to this show at one point, multiple points in their life, when they've talked to a non-wrestling fan and expressed your interest and passion about this sport, if you will, this entertainment, you've got the, oh, you know, it's fake, right? Like everyone gets that. And I think something that Dark Side of the Ring achieved was, you know, humanizing some of these wrestlers, but most of all talking about it in a non-kayfabe way, where people watching it are like, oh, okay, it's not necessarily trying to pull the wool over our eyes and trying to make us believe this is a real thing. These are entertainers. These are dancers. These are actors. These are stuntmen, whatever you want to call them. And it is an art form. And I definitely got the sense with people who got into the Dark Side of the Ring documentary. And again, it's that thing where it just appears on their Crave subscription or whatever. And they go, let's give this. I like, you know, dark documentaries and that kind of thing, where they've maybe got a greater understanding of what wrestling is through that, rather than the presentation we see on TV. And therefore being a bit more curious and coming in to watch, say, Raw or AEW or whatever, and not watching it as, these people think this is real, but, oh, I get it. These are performers and they're performing and there's storytelling and stuff like that. So you could get that aspect from this documentary as well.
Yeah. Like WWE definitely, since Dark Side, like they like changed a lot of their docs. I felt like they tried with the recent ones, they get way more like grounded and down to earth and like, you know, not exposing the business, but like, you know, getting true interviews and actual pieces. Whereas there are definite times they put out documentaries before where it's kind of just been like kayfabe, which is kind of weird. So I think Dark Side, they saw that a lot of people were watching that and talking about that more so than WWE. So they kind of stepped their game up and they put out a lot. But this is a Netflix thing, and like 6 episodes where it's gonna show Vince's uprising and how he got to WWE and stuff we know. I'm wondering if, you know, there is stuff that we've never heard, but it's very unlikely that we get stuff that we haven't necessarily, you know, been revealed or anything. But like, there's so much dirt. Again, like, I'm not judge, jury, or executioner, but I've been watching wrestling for a long time. And you know, in this documentary, they're going to show everything Vince McMahon did on camera, on screen, that I watched
Trish
as a kid.
barking like a dog.
Trish, Vince saying the N-bomb, fucking other racist, or like, you know, the list goes on. And those are things that he chose to do for a laugh on television. So they're gonna show that
from what I've like seen the commercial and stuff, and even the little blurb about it. That's the sense I'm getting is this. I think this documentary is approaching it like, did the character of Mr. McMahon inform the real life person and he became more like his character, or was the character we seen on screen
Yeah.
just the extension of the real life Mr. Vince McMahon? And I think that's a kind of interesting approach to go at it. Did he let this character consume him so much that he became the character, or vice versa?
But that's like, even the trailer, again, we haven't watched it yet, but I am genuinely interested in watching this. But like the clip of Triple H, like, oh, you know, Vince is different. The character of Mr. McMahon, he wanted you to see all this stuff. That's the bit they use in the trailer with Triple H. Like, oh, everything you've seen or heard about Vince, he's purposely like wanted you to, that's the part of the character. So the person Vince, he's just Vince, but Mr. McMahon, yeah, he would shit on someone. So like, it's like very like, so you're going to try to say this is just a character. He's just playing, it consumed him. Either way, definitely going to show people, hey, we're done with Vince. He helped make this thing, but we've since like moved on. And it's interesting. Like obviously it's going to be a lot of wrestlers talking about him and stuff. Janelle Grant seems like she turned this down, makes sense, but like some of the, degrading and humiliating stuff that will probably come out of this that people don't know or haven't read up on or anything. So there is like the dark side of this, like that this guy was a piece of shit. So yeah, I
think Ann Callis, she put out, I believe it was her, because now Janelle Grant's hired like this top PR firm and stuff. And it seems to be to, get her story out there ahead of this documentary being released, and also protecting her once this documentary's out. And I think at first when we heard she wasn't involved, there was a little bit like, oh, was she even asked? Like, what happened? Brandon is just calling me as he knows we're recording right now. But yes, but then I think the statement they made this week made a whole lot of sense, where she wants to get her own story across. And, there is editing when it comes to documentaries, and you could say one thing and it could be possibly portrayed in a different way. So I think it made a whole lot of sense why she's not involved with this documentary.
Yeah, so I'm definitely interested in seeing it. We'll talk about it as we go. I'm pretty sure we'll devour this pretty quickly and watch all of it. So probably I'd say in a week or so, when we get together for Up Next on the CW, we'll have a little chat about that as well, because who knows, maybe we'll learn some new things. But Vince McMahon. So that's definitely something wrestling fans are looking forward to. And I think, again, like non-wrestling fans are also like, this story made news. This story of Vince is still in the news and everything. So I think it's a pretty big deal, and interesting that Netflix and WWE are together. So interest definitely there.
Yeah.
So yeah, go for it.
No, it's interesting for wrestling fans, but there's something interesting for Poisonrana fans as well, courtesy of Chopped Tees.
Yeah, we can tell you this. I guess this is top secret, but I guess if you're listening to this, which means you are an elite listener of Poisonrana, and we would definitely recommend that you go to chopped-tees.com, or even check out the socials right now, because Dickie Bird over at Chopped Tees is releasing very limited edition Poisonrana jackets that you have to see to believe. And Dickie has once again outdone himself, because wow, these are for all the frogs out there. Oh, you got a picture. Look at this. Oh my goodness, Dickie Bird. What is this?
Yeah, these are beautiful. They're very limited edition. If you have bought from Chopped Tees, a lot of it is like just print on demand. We've got factories all over the world, and it gets to you very, very quickly. This is a little different, because this is super, super premium. This is our Poisonrana varsity jacket. If you're just listening to the audio, you will see all of this on the socials, but it features genuine leather sleeves and pocket trim with Melton wool body, quilted inner lining, embroidered logos on the chest and the back, knitted cuffs, collars, and waist. This is beautiful. It's super premium. It's super high quality. If you remember the classic Raw is War retro varsity jacket back in the day, back in those, 97, 98, it's heavily inspired on that. And that is going for the Raw is War jacket is going for $225. However, Chop Tees being Chop Tees, this will be a more affordable price. It's going to be going for around 160 USD, and that includes the shipping. And however, with this being a bit of a premium product, certain areas there may be like import charges on top of the shipping, which you might need to look into as well. But yeah, we've only got a few of these being made. It will ship worldwide. And I believe our pre-sale starts for this tomorrow. This will be officially released in November. They do take a bit of time to make because it's super, super high quality. But if you are interested, we'll be posting all the information on how you can get hold of one of these beautiful Varsity jackets and sign up for the pre-sale. And if it is a whole lot of money, but if you want to treat yourself, I know Dickie has even set up some payment plans so you can pay for this thing monthly. So just like, you know, buying a t-shirt a month rather than throwing all your money down in one thing. But this is an investment. This is going to last you forever, and you're still going to look fucking awesome when you're in your 80s rocking this thing to your grandkids' graduation. So
yeah, it's so crazy. It looks so awesome. Obviously, like, this guy has put so much work. Dickie has put so much work into this, and it looks so fly. I can't wait to rock one myself and take some photos together. We'll get them. I'll be wearing it every wrestling show for sure in the next years to come. So if you're a true fan, this is a limited edition merch that we're selling, and we're gonna have more limited edition things in the future. But this is just one of the first things Dickie was cooking up, and boy, did he knock it out the park. It looks so awesome. So if you're interested, get yourself a Poisonrana varsity jacket coming soon. Sign up to the email list there, and send your photos in when you get them and everything, because we'd love to share them. But and of course, chop-tees.com/Poisonrana. You can eventually find this, but you'll find the hats and the t-shirts and everything else on there, and all the support we appreciate. And if you do buy some of our stuff, please send in photos, whether it's the Facebook group or Twitter or whatever, and we would love to share them. And we appreciate the love, because this is how you can help support your independence here. Your indie pods.
Also, I just want to sing Dickie's praises once more. This is how much he loves his customers, because most things, when you try and do a big purchase and it does the pay in installments, it adds interest. So yes, it's nice because you're not putting a large whack of money on your credit card, but overall you're paying more money at the end of the day. This has 0% interest, and you can split this across 4 payments, 6 payments if you like, and it's not going to charge you a penny more. So a great option that Dickie's including for these varsity jackets. I can't wait to see you all rocking them. But as I said, the pre-sale window does open tomorrow. It will be open for 3 weeks, but there's very, very, very limited supply.
I see John Cino, Evil, in the chat. He says, this jacket doesn't cost $7,000 or is stained with mimosas. Not yet. Anyways. He also says, can't wait to rock them all together at Full Gear like we are the Warriors. Oh, my God. Dickie, it's a stretch, but if you can get these to us before Full Gear, I'm definitely wearing that all around New York. So thank you, Dickie. Like, these look incredible. I was blown away. I'm a snapback guy. So, like, this guy finally made these proper hats. I was already like, Dickie, you did everything I ever need from you. And then he just took it to the next level with the shirts and the shorts. And then now this jacket, like, man, so incredible. So thank you, Dickie. And to all our listeners, because we wouldn't be able to sell merch. And we super appreciate that we can. And like, people are walking around with our frogs on their hats or their shirts or whatever. And it's super cool. And we're super humbled by that. So thank you. We are, if anything, we love the community, and what, like, another level to this is like being in the community with people wearing stuff and at wrestling events and everything. So whether you're going to Full Gear, whether you're going to WrestleMania or Texas or wherever, get your Poisonrana gear and rock it for these wrestling events. We love you.
Absolutely. Well, shall we go into a little bit of WWE talk?
Yes, absolutely. Because this week on WWE, it was what some would say cinema.
It was cinema.
Cinema.
Now, just over a week ago, I feel a lot of people were rejoicing with the news that Raw was moving to 2 hours as of October. But you know what happened?
Psych.
SmackDown is now 3 hours. And
gotcha, bitch.
I mean, if you don't like spending 3 hours of your night on a Monday night when there's not a whole lot going on watching wrestling, I'm sure you're going to love staying in on a Friday night.
How about Friday nights?
Whole hours.
So is this permanent?
Wrestling. It sounds like it for the USA deal. Yeah.
You know, like you see those memes where it's always like a happy face and then a sad face. As soon as this news broke, you could just see John Pollock. I just had a vision of John Pollock and Wei Ting, just like the smiles turned to not so smiles.
Yeah, that's
You're our friends. So
at that time on a Friday night, like that's rough.
Fuck. Yeah.
Now, I'm curious because I do think overall, like I have been watching Raw and SmackDown quite a bit recently, and for me, Raw has been far superior, and I think it's because they've been having better matches than they did in the past because they are getting a little bit more time. They've had the time to build some more characters, and I think now if you can keep what you've been doing with that and condense it into 2 hours, that's awesome. Trim the fat. I don't know. Maybe this is going to help SmackDown a bit because I do think SmackDown's been treading water, and maybe it's a way that we are going to have that character development for certain people. But if SmackDown kind of stays how it has been the last few months, it's like that's rough. That's going to be a slog, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I've not necessarily been too into WWE since Mania. I feel like it hit this like Endgame thing where like after Endgame of Marvel movies, I was a little like, okay, that was really great, and I think I'm a little capped now. Like maybe it's like everything else is like, well, it's not going to be as good as this, and maybe that's like affecting me of how I watch. But I still think they're on a run. I still think they're really hot right now. It still makes a lot of sense. They're selling out places. They're getting good ratings. I'm sure merch is good. I just feel like business right now as a whole for WWE is really, really good. So it's not necessarily surprising that it was surprising that they've took away the hour from Raw. I was like, wow, they finally realized that less is more is more for WWE. And then they just took that hour and put it on TV because they'll make more money with the ads. So yeah, it's interesting, but it's like, do we need 3 hours of SmackDown? Because you mentioned also like people at home, like, oh, you're going to spend your Friday night watching from 8 to 11. It's the people in the arenas too, right? Like that adds another thing to it. Like usually they do like dark matches and stuff like that. I mean, you go to AEW, it's like 5 more hours of tapings of Ring of Honor or whatever, but it's still like, that still seems like a lot added to. Like SmackDown's never been this long, really. So it worked for Raw. I guess people got used to it. Someone in the chat, Chris Jones, says it gives them time for those 50-minute Bloodline segments. Yeah, like that.
Yeah, we're just going to see longer entrances for Roman. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's, and I know it's different for podcasters. It's different for people who are reviewing it and intently watching every single moment of this show. But most sports last around 3 hours, you know, and I know it's different, it's competitive and stuff, but I think it's a variety show, and there like in recent months, I think we have seen success in Raw being able to make it work. So it sucks if you have to sit down and watch this show every single week, but I don't know, as a fan going, if you're putting a quality 3 hour show forward, like I think we've said this with AEW shows, there have been some that are 4 hours long that feel like 6 hours, and there's others that I think All Out just breezed by, and that was a 4 hour show, so at the end of the day, it's the quality. If you're putting on quality stuff, it doesn't feel as much of a drag. Like if it's not quality, it's gonna feel long. And I'm interested. What would you, out of the 3 hours, what kind of things would you like to, now they've got that time, what would you like them to spend more time on? Whether it's a division, it's a certain wrestler, it's more promos, more in-ring content. What do you want, rather than just feeling, okay, we got to pad out this show now.
Yeah. I mean, I think back to WrestleMania time when The Rock would take like 15 minutes to get to the ring and then cut a promo, and then they'd go long, and then like you heard matches got cut and this and that. Like with WrestleMania season and The Rock, then like it's possible that does make sense because you need an hour for The Rock. Like that's the whole hour is The Rock, and then everything else is secondary. So maybe that is a clue in that we are going to get more Rocky stuff because we're giving a whole extra hour just to make sure we don't cut off other things that we got going on. That's definitely something that comes to mind, because I remember that was a thing whenever he was on Raw or SmackDown, that his segments seemed to take up a big chunk of the show. Now, rightfully so, because it was some of the best stuff, as a fan, I think I've seen in WWE for a while, like this year. So maybe that's like an indicator that, okay, the show has done really well. We have Cody, Roman, Rock, the Bloodline stuff that still has, gas for another year. So maybe it makes the most sense, I guess, but 3 hours.
I'd really like to see them try and reestablish this tag division on SmackDown.
Sure.
I think and we'll get into some Lucha Brothers news, but I think when they land, I'd like to see them on SmackDown. And I think especially with the extra hour, I think something Raw has achieved recently is really building up their mid card. I think certain people in the last year or so have gotten over from just having time and being able to put on good matches. I think Chad Gable is someone who elevated himself. I would say their kind of meat division right now with your Bronson Reeds, your Bron Breakers, your Braun Strowman even recently. I think they've really managed to build that up. And I think there've been more matches in the middle of the show that I've enjoyed rather than, okay, we're killing time until the main event. So if Raw is being like the meaty men that we've been developing, I'd really like to see the SmackDown division, because I think you throw in the Lucha Brothers with your Street Profits there, you've got DIY there, maybe Machine Guns move up to SmackDown. You've got the Bloodline, obviously, as your tag champions. Who knows if we'll reunite Jay and Jimmy on SmackDown? Like, I think you could really put a focus on that and try to make it a little bit more prestigious. And what's worked on Raw is, let these incredibly talented wrestlers go out there and show how talented they are and break the just typical WWE trend of headlock as Raw rolls on and that kind of thing. And just showing, Ilya going out there and showing his very different style of what he's capable of. Stuff like that.
I think WWE is still doing best of creating the characters to make you care. I tell you, like I know Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, right? Like two incredible talent wrestling every week, it seemed. But Andrade, it's like he comes out, not a real crazy reaction. Same with Carmelo. It's like, okay, we kind of, some people know who they are. And then they have a good match. And then people are like, whoa, that was great. And then the next town on the next Friday, the same thing happens. And it's like, oh, okay, like what do we need to do to make have some sort of like character? And that's kind of what they did originally with him in NXT, where they gave him a character that went with the wrestling kind of thing. Like, yeah, you need to throw people out there and have good matches in today's age, because that's what keeps like the hardcores and stuff and everything. But WWE is doing a good job of the characters. So I feel like making you care about a lot more of the matches they do. It does make sense. It's still the matches themselves that I feel like they've kind of still watered down some of their match quality, at least in the last little while. Like none of the matches necessarily, like I was always like, that was good. Gunther Randy, yeah, that was good. But nothing that was like, whoa, oh my God, you have to watch this match. But it's kind of everything else surrounding it. Like, there's wrestling fans that don't actually care about the wrestling. They just love everything else, the drama, behind the scenes stuff. Like, I feel like WWE is doing that like really well, especially with like the Cody and Roman stuff and all that. But
I think there is room for both. I think Io and Bianca this week had such a good match, and it was great. So different from the regular mold. And I don't know whether it was them just being like, fuck it, let's just do a WrestleMania style match tonight and we're capable of it, so let's do it. and you heard the crowd who got into that. And I think there is that element where, people do, Mello and Andrade don't really know too much about them. And then they're watching. And if you are producing something a little bit more, 2024 wrestling centric, that can get you over, as well as, cheating on your girlfriend with the hot blonde girl. That can get you over. Like, there's different ways you can get over. And that's what Triple H had success with in NXT, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was, he had characters, but a lot of the time it was the wrestling. Like, I think of that, what was it? Danny Burch, Oney Lorcan feud, where you look at both guys and they both look old, white, and bald in black
Generic.
trunks and so generic. And I remember they had that series of matches that by that last, I think it was a best of 7 or best of 5 or something like that. By the end, everyone was getting really into that, and they became a pretty fun tag team out of that. And DIY essentially came about that way by just being thrown together in that Dusty Cup and then having killer matches. So I think it can work both ways. And I definitely think having a bit more time to showcase what you're capable of every week, rather than you got 12 minutes and 3-4 minutes of that is eaten up by a commercial break. It's hard to get over when it's like that, I think.
Yeah. Like, they've still stepped up. Don't get me wrong. Like, the wrestling is still better than a lot of years that it has been. But I feel like with some of the talent that they already have and that they are seemingly bringing in, like, that seems to be still important. Like Cody, for instance, like Cody being a champion, I'd say his run kind of has been playing it safe, as we kind of talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to his matches, like, they're pretty good. Like, I'd say the match with Roman at Mania, the match with AJ, like, he's still delivered quality wrestling. But I feel like it's like a good time. And I just think with all the big changes in Netflix and everything, like, the machine of WWE is just going to keep, like, running with even more steam behind it. And again, like, bringing The Rock in for Mania, which I think is Rock and Cody, which is like the thing that I keep thinking, like, that should be like, now it's more than Roman and Rock, almost, in a weird way. But I think I could be wrong, where it's just going to be Rock. But
I think it was meant to be Roman and Rock, but Cody's in his way in life.
Yeah. Let's talk about this. So
let's
jump into this. So you hear me all the time say, like, okay, WWE not hitting it so far. And then I saw that this was some stills or some clips from the SmackDown segment. And I was like, today, I was like, okay, what happened on SmackDown? And I see this, like, over the top, cinematically filmed mafia style meeting at the Georgia Tech football stadium here. So I was like, all right. And I tuned into the YouTube, clicked it, watched it. And like 5 seconds in, I'm like, oh, I'm going to hate this. I was totally mistaken. I was like, oh, this is the same feeling from Mania season with, like, oh, like Cody and Roman, who are, dare I say, the best two, like, actors in WWE currently. And there's a reason they're the guys, right? And this is just two dudes really over dramatically talking in a empty football stadium. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly the vibes we got from Mania season, where it's like, the story here is these two. They are, like, linked together here. And the line, you're in my way of fucking life, bro. Like, without you, I'd be still the guy. So it's great kind of teasing, like, well, there's still one more match in there between those two. It's 1-1, right?
Yeah. We didn't have this style going into Mania, but the Mania actual promos, felt very, like, Hollywood and produced.
The story, I think, like, also, like, it just felt big and grand, and this felt, like, really dramatic. There was music, like, when Roman's, like, says something, the music cue hits.
Yeah.
And it's like the entrance where, like, all the cars show up with Roman, and then Cody's like, nah, fuck that. He shows up with his car.
You said mafia. It reminded me of those scenes in Breaking Bad where they meet in the desert.
Yeah, exactly.
Walter White, like, they pull up and they have a meeting. And I thought it was really cool. And I think finally we've, like, I'd say this rivalry of, like, two top stars is the first time it's, for me personally, it's hit since Rock and Austin. You had them try and push Randy and Cena being, like, a generational rivalry. for me, that never really connected with me. Granted, I was kind of not watching half of that time, but I never thought they actually had great chemistry in the ring compared to, say, Punk and Cena. I thought they had a good rivalry, and maybe Edge and Cena, which we'll be talking about. But it felt like Randy and Cena were like the 1A, 1B they were really trying to push. That didn't quite click for me. And then Brock and Roman certainly didn't click for me. And they tried that so many times. And really, apart from their WrestleMania 31 match, which I love, that never hit again. And whereas now I think you've got these two guys who you completely understand their motivations. I love that Roman, his character hasn't really changed. His motivations are exactly as they were when he was champion. It's just we love him now, and he's kind of fighting on the right side. But I'm glad that he's not all like coming out big smiles, the big dogs here and all that. That he's still consistent with his character that was leading up to Mania. And I think Cody has earned his respect. You know, he beat him. He was the one person that did beat him in this reign. But he still wants that position back. And I do get like, you know, that sort of Austin Rock vibe going into 17, where the Rock is the guy. Austin was injured for a while. Austin was away. He came back and he wants his place back. And I think it's setting up for whenever you eventually get these two for that rubber match. I think it's going to feel the biggest it's felt, because both are going to be just like elevated higher and higher and higher. And especially once you've got maybe the Netflix machine behind this as well, and you're producing stuff like this, it's definitely got my interest. And I think it has informed other stories, and we'll go into Kevin Owens in a little bit in quite a nice way, where Roman had such a grip on the whole company for 4 or 5 years that everyone he upset during that time is now like, yo, what the fuck, Cody? What you doing? I thought it was done really well.
It was produced really well. It has so many wrinkles to the story. The fact that we're again like, hey, what is the Mania match? It could be Cody and Rock. It could be Rock and Roman. It could be Roman and Cody again. Like, there's so many like little things going back in between. But I thought they did such a
We've got the 2 nights thing as well. So who knows?
Yeah,
we
that
had
is
double
true.
duty this year. Who knows if they'll do similar next year?
Yeah, like I felt like, again, going into it, I was like, this looks so silly, but at the same time, I think they did a really good job of like making it seem pretty serious and kind of reminding you like how good both these guys are at the like promo and the acting. Again, obviously edited and everything with music added and great camera work and everything. Sino in the chat says it was produced by Borash, Fee, and Heyman. At
nice.
WWE, which you clearly see that had like Borash definitely loves doing.
Rob
those
Fee did a lot of the Bray stuff, right?
Got you. And Heyman, I mean, yeah. So I really like this, and again, it's adding some like flavor to the story, and again, kind of like a Breaking Bad or a thriller or some sort of mafia movie where Cody's like, hey, hold on a second. I just want to make sure you got my back because I got yours, kind of thing. And that's like, you know, these two guys, they're going into war, but they don't know if one's a dirty cop or like, you know, it felt like that. So
I think something Heyman's done really well. And Cino saying that Heyman was involved in this. I mean, obviously he's involved in a lot of the Roman stuff.
Yeah.
He's great at tying to history. You know, as soon as we had this Cody and Roman thing, he tied it with, you know, Heyman gave Dusty a shot in ECW, brought him in when he was, you know, bankrupt or whatever the story was. Like, he's got a tie with the Rhodes family, just like he's got a tie with the bloodline. And I think seeing, you both were involved with Georgia Tech. That's another thing that brings you together and shows these two have had a similar background. They're both from a dynasty and they're both on the same path. And now they're the 2 top guys in the company. I think that level of detail, it makes it feel bigger than just, I want the title. No, I want the title. Well, I've got the title. Well, I want your title. You know, it makes it feel a lot deeper. And also just getting away from the arena. I like a change in setting. I know it was one of the things we liked in NXT when you had the barber shop for a setting. Rather than this week it's a face-to-face. Next week it's a contract signing. Next week is X speaks. You know, it's just getting out there. And okay, you maybe can't do this every single week, but I think it definitely adds a boost into, like, it just vitalizes it.
Yeah, no, it felt good. It felt special that they decided to do it this way, because just doing it in the ring, I guess, wouldn't have had this effect. Again, like editing and making it very over the top and dramatic and everything. But all it is a tag match, and they built this match up to make it seem like it's this big, huge thing, which I guess it is, where we're getting Solo and Jacob Fatu versus Roman and Cody. And Cody's like, yo, bro, you better, like, Cody's basically like, you better not fucking turn on me, man. Like,
Yeah.
After all this shit, with everyone talking like, yo, why are you hanging out with Roman and all this? Like, you fucking better not. Like, please don't. And it would be pretty funny if he did, but I don't see it going that way. If this ultimately ends to, like, The Rock was pulling the strings the whole time, I'm assuming that's kind of where we go in some sort of direction. But yeah, it's almost like, hey, Roman, you can go feud with The Rock, but then it's like, who's the big boss for Cody? Roman just kind of claimed his fame that, like, we're not done here, essentially. So it's like, oh shit, okay, so we got a lot of stuff brewing, and I think this was a good little, like, reset. Because last week, I think I said, I was like, you know, I'm kind of bored of this Cody reign, and right now they're like, okay, hold on, because then this dwindles. There's a butterfly effect here, because now they're boys, and they have a big tag team match at Bad Blood. This pisses off some people like Kevin Owens, who's getting his ass kicked by the Bloodline for the last, like, 5 years.
Yeah.
In the Thunderdome every fucking day, I'm imagining, just getting his ass beat by any
should have been champion numerous times.
Yeah, I just remember having multiple title matches with Roman, like, all the time.
Last man standing, where I can't count to 10 anymore.
Yeah, wasn't there one where they got stuck and he couldn't, like,
it was the handcuffs. Yeah,
that was kind of weird.
He was down for like 20 seconds.
Yeah, that was bad. I feel like there's so much there that Kevin is like, yo, like, now you're friends with this guy? Like, fuck you. So will the turn come? Because at the end of SmackDown, Cody saves Kevin, and then the reaction from the crowd of screams when the shot was Cody still looking at them, but Kevin has the chair in his hand. The crowd just, like, sold the story for you. So we need to see that happen. Like, it was a great little tease, because I didn't mind the match that they had at what was it? Basham? No, what was the last one?
Bash in Berlin, yeah.
Yeah, and I felt like it was good, but how better would it be if Kevin was like, you know, Kevin Steen, Kevin?
I think it makes more sense to build to this turn than just do it at Bash in Berlin. You know, I think but I also wonder, you know, Owens is in contract negotiations. I wonder if they're kind of doing this story as well, similar to what we saw with Daniel Garcia on AEW, to kind of keep it open. Like, maybe we, you know, want to turn you, if you're leaving, we'll turn you heel and you can put over Cody once more. Or if you're staying, maybe we'll pivot and go a different way. Because I do think the Randy match is the bigger match for Cody. And I wonder if, you know, all this time you think, like, Owens and Randy are boys and they're all, like, looking out for Cody, whether it's the whole time you think it's Owens that's going to be the one that turns and it's actually Randy, and that can spawn a feud with Randy and Kevin that spins off as well, and that kind of thing. So it's definitely, I think the big thing with any, you know, episodic programming is, have you questioning, like, have you thinking what's going to go next? And I think they did a great job with not letting Owens share his feelings. Like, every time he tried to this week, he got attacked or whatever. So prolonging that and having us as fans questioning, is he going to turn? What's going to happen?
Yeah, like Owens is so good in this role. I would be so more into a, like, Kevin Owens nasty heel versus Cody feud for the next few months, to kind of, you know, keep him busy with not being involved with the Bloodline stuff as much. But I don't know, because, like, again, the reaction was there. Like, watching, I was like, oh. In my mind, I'm like, they're not doing that, but the crowd seemed to think it for a second, which made for, like, a good segment. But then you had Sean Ross Sapp tweeting that Kevin Owens has been approached regarding a new WWE contract, and AEW is expected to make Kevin Owens a big offer if he becomes available. And now just like, stay with me for a second. Let's hang on that word "if," because I do not think that Kevin Owens at this stage in his career would leave. There was a point maybe 5 years ago to 4 years ago where ourselves and lots of wrestling fans at the time, when WWE seemed to really just not be that great, would love to see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and jump ship. They're misusing you. Go be the guys in this other company. Be with your friends and the elite and everything, yada, yada, yada. But then we saw them stay, and we saw Kevin Owens main event WrestleMania with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Do you think Kevin Owens, do you think they made the wrong decision there, that they main evented WrestleMania together? And like, also, so no, I don't think they made the wrong decision at all. Now, going back to that, like, I don't see this happening, but how cool would it be if we got a Kevin Steen run just one more time? Again, I do not see this actually happening, but Eddie Kingston comes to mind. Some stuff with MJF, obviously stuff with the Bucks, but like, it would be a crazy, weird thing if he were to leave WWE at this point. And again, I don't think it's happening, but I would love to hear that theme song again. I would love to see him powerbomb people on the aprons like he used to. It's just an if.
I get the feeling from, like, let's compare it to Bryan Danielson, for instance, who are, these are two guys who, shouldn't have really ever made it based on appearance, style, whatever you want to say. Like, they don't fit the regular mold. And both have been champions, both have main evented Manias multiple times. Whereas Danielson, he's always said, I just want to wrestle. And I think there's that element where he's itching to wrestle other people and wrestle different styles. And he doesn't really care. Like, it feels like in AEW, he was like handed the title kicking and screaming, like he was like, no, don't give it to me. I don't want it.
I'm not your champion.
I'll retire. I'll leave. Whereas Owens, I think his goals are not from, documentaries we've seen and about him and stuff like that. I think his goals are more WWE goals, more so than, I'd love to wrestle Okada. I'd love to wrestle Hangman Page. And his title run, he's had one like Universal World title run in the company. And there is a bit of a asterisk, I think.
That's a big asterisk. That's a big bill right there.
Yeah, that first run, you always
Goldberg.
It's always like a testing the waters thing. He was handed to it, literally.
He was literally handed the
by
title,
Triple H.
Yeah.
And then the story, he never felt like the champion in the company. You then had the Jericho feud, which was demoted to a US title run. And I remember it was like 365 or whatever, 24, whatever that Netflix thing was. And there was WrestleMania Orlando. What was that? 33. And he's pulling up in the car. And I think, is it Charlotte Flair who's in the car next to him? Or Finn Balor or someone? And he's like, remember when we were champions a month ago? And now it's WrestleMania. And I get the feeling he's someone who is maybe still driven by WrestleMania main events and being champion, the guy in the company. And yeah, like, as a fan, I think some of the matches we could see in AEW and maybe being like a little rougher with his style, like we saw in the indies and stuff. Yeah, that's exciting. But I think if he were to leave at this stage in his career and go back, I think those opportunities are gone. He'll have a spot coming back.
Yeah.
But I don't think he'll reach that main event or world title level again. So
I don't know. Like, again, I think some great content in the next few months would be a great like feud between him and Cody, right? Like, I think it would make sense.
I'm saying if he were to leave and come back to the Fed in like 5 years time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's past it by that point. So
yeah. Like, I don't necessarily see him beating Cody for the title, but I wouldn't necessarily say he'd never win a world title in WWE again at this point. Like, there's still hope, especially if we get like the mean Steen, like the real like evil guy that we have seen some of it in WWE.
You've got 2 titles as well, and both, Raw and SmackDown with huge TV deals. They're gonna try and make both champions and both brands as huge as possible, I'd imagine.
Yeah, no, like again, like fantasy book him, like, oh, there's some great like wrestling matches we'd get out of him outside of WWE, but I do not see him leaving. I think he's a lifer for sure. He loves it. Maybe one day his kid will be in WWE, you know, like that's probably something down the line and we could eventually see. But yeah,
Owen Owens,
Owen Owens, right? Or would he call him Steen Owens?
Steen Owens,
Just to really mess up that whole.
yeah. Owen
whatever it
Kevin,
is.
Owen
Yeah.
Kevin.
Kevin Steen is just such a better wrestling name than Kevin Owens. But yeah, anyways, KO. They just really wanted. We need someone named KO so badly. It didn't work out with Cassius.
It was his choice. He chose it
I
because
know, but
his love for Owen Hart.
in today's age, he'd be Kevin Steen, right? Like
Probably, yeah, most probably.
yeah, because people are like, "No, we're using my real name." But yeah, like I'm looking forward to, if done right, like Cody and Steen. Cody and Kevin in a nice feud in the next little while would definitely spice things up for that title reign. That Cody, because Cody's like, "Hey, I won the title, but I'm still just busy with these people."
Could you? I could see maybe the turn, if it happens, happening at War Games.
Right.
You know, I don't think because I'm thinking back to some of the old WCW War Games. You always had NWO, someone joining the NWO in those.
It turned every day, yeah.
Yeah, right. But I don't think we've seen it in a WWE one where someone switches sides.
We've seen Dakota Kai do it a few times. I feel in NXT we've seen a few of the turns, like when the door opens and things.
Yeah, okay, but like in the match, suddenly turning. I don't know. I feel that could be if Owens is involved in that War Games, that could be the opportunity to do it.
That's just so like TNA booking though. Like, hey, I'm gonna wrestle a match where I'm getting destroyed for 30 minutes, and then you know what? Actually, I'm gonna turn on you.
Well,
I feel like
he can be the last entrant. Like it doesn't even have to be.
In the cage coming out of the door is when you get the big reaction of like if he were to do something dastardly, like gets in the ring, you think he's helping Cody, and then he doesn't. Could it be a way? But that's still a long time to prolong this like turn. Like we could be seeing it at Bad Blood. You know, like he could come out and be like, "Nah, fuck you guys." Do we see Jacob Fatu pinning Roman Reigns or Cody in this? Cody needs to stop getting pinned by these Samoans.
I think at this point, you need to start pushing the idea of Fatu leading this group.
Right.
So Solo's the pin eater here.
Yeah, I think so too. Like Solo should get pinned.
Yeah.
And then we we should just get a 2-man power trip of Roman and Cody. Get Roman the other title, the little bro title, and then Cody with this title, and then they just take over. I'm looking forward to that match because Jacob Fatu is like the wild card right now, and he's so crazy and interesting to watch. So I think him working together with Roman and Cody and Solo should be a pretty fun match, I think, even though it's just a tag. But yeah.
We also had Andrade versus LA Knight on SmackDown for the US title. LA Knight winning, like decent enough match, but that handshake.
Yeah, what was up with that?
Very weird.
What's that about?
I read theories online that maybe it's because, you know, Los Ingobernables do the fist bump. That maybe Andrade was unwilling to fist bump because it might, you know, he's not one of his faction brothers. Or
might
something
piss
like
off
that.
Roosh.
Yeah, I don't know. So something like it was like LA Knight's going for the fist bump. It was like, no, I shake your hand, and LA Knight's. It was weird. It was very odd, but
it was it was like when like I met your dad one time. I go to dap him up, and he's like, I don't know what.
Yeah.
What is? Yeah. What? Okay, what are we doing here? Yeah. All right. How about we just?
That sounds very strange for audio listeners, like right now. Especially bringing my dad into it. It's
yeah. No, I'm all for that. So yeah, that was weird. But Andrade winning that and then losing the match against LA Knight, which is fine. I don't think he should be winning the US title just yet. But I'm trying to think of other stuff that I saw that I like. We talked about Saturday night's main event coming back. That's still pretty cool. That could be another, you know, whether I wouldn't necessarily book Cody versus Roman on that, but like I imagine we get something big for that first one.
I mean, that could be like if you've done the turn, that could be Kevin, like Cody and Kevin. Right. Like you're gonna have to boost that up as like a pay-per-view level thing, I would say, to make it mean something.
But yeah,
especially that pay-per-views only have like 5 matches on. You can certainly do big matches on that show.
Yeah, so we got Liv versus Rhea, Damian versus Balor, Punk versus Drew in the Cell, and then Nia versus Bailey.
It's probably going to be a triple threat. So
Right.
both Bailey and Naomi pinned Nia at the same time,
right.
Which they're then going to have a match next week. I imagine Nia runs out and beats them both up, and we get a triple threat. Like it hasn't been the most inspired booking. Like I do think the women's division, especially on SmackDown, has really been suffering. Again, maybe that's something with the third hour. You can put a bunch more NXT talent up there, move up your Roxannes and the likes, and try and put some more focus, because you've got great women's wrestlers in this company, but the booking has been pretty lazy and uninspired, and I don't think we've been getting the quality of matches that some of the women there are capable of.
Yeah, totally agree. I think the women's division right now, they need to kind of fix some things. Nia Jax, I think the title reign is already longer than it should have been. I don't see too much in that. I'm trying to.
I assume Tiffany will be the next champion.
Yeah,
I'd imagine
be a lot better.
Which then gets interesting, and then you can really
way better stuff
up with
there.
other people.
Yeah. There's some talks about the Lucha Bros. I saw PWN reports said the Lucha Bros have signed with WWE, multi-year deal. And then Fightful and many other places were like, hey, that doesn't seem to be the case. Lucha Bros are still signed with AEW.
Kind of illegal right now.
Kind of contract tampering, right? Am I right? I mean, I'm going to assume we are getting Lucha Bros in WWE. I guess maybe just not right now. I think having Pac win the trios titles at All In without the Lucha Bros, to me, was a clear-cut sign that they had told Tony that they were not re-signing, and that was him basically being like, well, then I'm just not going to have you win on my biggest stage. So that was kind of the tip-off for me, I think. But seeing Lucha Bros in WWE is like such a good move. Lucha Bros kind of did everything there is to do for them in AEW. I think they hit their ceiling. They've had some incredible matches and moments, but I don't think they'd ever be used anything beyond that. In fact, if anything, their stock has dropped. Not blaming Alex Abrahantes, but I'm also blaming Alex Abrahantes because
BCC are the biggest baby faces in the company right now.
Beating the shit out of that motherfucker. Guy. Yeah. So like, I mean,
you
the
say
aura
they did
of them
everything.
have dropped.
100%. Like you say they did everything. They did and they didn't. They did everything there was to do as a tag team. Mm-hmm. I think there was definitely, especially in, I'd say, the first 3 years of the company, there was money to be made of,
Penta
as a mega heel and Phoenix as a mega baby face.
Breaking arms.
All I can think of is we had the tease of it with a Cody feud, which felt like it was going to be a big thing. And then the match was the next week on Dynamite and they moved on. And
Cody no-sold the arm.
Yeah. And I think you could have we had that one match between the two, which was great, but you could have had a proper heated like blood feud between Phoenix and Penta. And then like at least a TNT title level like run for one of them. And we never got that. And I think maybe the bloom is off the rose when it comes to that at that point with these two. So as a tag team, WWE makes way more sense now.
Yeah, it's just like Penta for me. He's one of the coolest wrestlers, one of my favorites. Just like everything about him, the look, the wrestling, the Zero Miedo, I'm all in. Like he's just one of my favorites to watch. And I think there was an opportunity missed with having him again, kind of the early days of AEW where he could be this heel that many people saw in Lucha Underground, right? Like we saw what he was capable of. If you didn't, they could show you what this guy is like capable of, because like I'm a like more into wrestling than your normal fans. Whereas I'd also see him on AEW TV hanging around with that goofball, Alex Abrahantes. And then I'd watch Triple Mania and Penta was like ripping the guy's mask off, covered in blood, having these epic matches and being treated like a lucha god. And then you'd watch him the next Wednesday and wouldn't even mention that. And then he'd be dancing around with this idiot. So I'm like, wait, is this the same guy under this mask? Like, how is this the same wrestler you're portraying, this character? So I think they did miss an opportunity with that. I think back to like some of the matches, like if you knew the Lucha Bros were on the card, you knew you'd at least get like one sick match out of it. So they were like part of the foundation of the beginnings of AEW. They definitely like helped establish like great matches and tag teams and stuff. But now I think they've done basically anything they could have, and it's a bit of a reset. I don't necessarily know this for a fact, but you could say they've been phoning it in a little bit in the last little while, maybe because they've been uninspired or I don't know, other reasons. So I think a whole new reset of the Lucha Bros in WWE. And something I saw online people were talking about is the masks, right? Like if you look on our set, I had to get my Joker Penta mask from a third party. AEW is missing out on potentially millions of dollars of people buying their masks. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I had to go and find this from some dude who makes them in Mexico. And instead, I couldn't buy this from like AEW shop. Like that's kind of weird. Where you watch WWE will in fact make $1 million on a Penta mask or a Rey Fenix mask or whatever. So I want a WWE PLE in 2025 from Mexico, and I want Rey Mysterio versus Penta, or Rey Mysterio versus Rey Fenix, Rey v. Rey, or just Rey and finds himself a partner and we get a dream lucha tag match, because I think there's some
Rey and Dragon Lee.
Rey and Dragon Lee, yeah, that'd be pretty fucking fire, wouldn't it? So like book some crazy, like get that Mexican market and like run with it, because Penta is the guy. He just needs to be reminded. I hope he doesn't just show up and phone it in, and I hope Alex Abrahante's phone never rings. I hope he never gets the ask, hey, we need a translator for the guys. No, do not. Keep him away from. In fact, Alex, I see you hanging around with Beast Maurice and all these other people. No, get away from them. You leave them alone.
Okay, I've got a few questions. Firstly, do you see them having to adapt their style going to WWE? Like
a little bit.
We don't really see well, it's weird. We see destroyers all the time, but we don't necessarily see a typical pile drivers. Like Phoenix he's got a very similar, package pile driver to Owens used to do, Steen used to do on the indies. We've got the like Phoenix's like Rikishi driver, the Fire Thunder driver he does. Just the speed and everything. I wonder if we see much of an adaptation, but then again, it is a different era. We're seeing that blood is being teased again, like all that kind of thing. So I wonder, it's like if you bring in these guys, you don't want to sanitize them too much. So what do you see their style evolving to?
Yeah, that is pretty fair. Like, again, they made their name for themselves because their wrestling have been pretty crazy. You mentioning all these moves that are typically banned in WWE. We've seen some things brought back. We've seen people do destroyers even in NXT and everything. So I think we'll be okay with some of the moves. Will they have to tone some of it down? Sure, maybe. But I think AEW losing the Lucha Bros is kind of like a bigger deal, because it's like they were such a big part of like the beginning of it, and a lot of the
some of the first signings.
Yeah, right? The first signees and like the matches with the Bucks and everything. And you just know when we get a real tag team dream match for the first time ever in WWE, the Machine Guns, Motor City Machine Guns versus Lucha Bros, which to my knowledge has never happened, will happen for the first time in a WWE ring. The Bucks will cry, because that is a crazy matchup that will change lives, and the Bucks will just be watching like, fuck.
Okay, second
question. Had both of them.
What the fuck will Penta's name be?
Penta just Penta, just straight up.
Just Penta, not Pentagon Jr., not Pentagon, not Penta Oscuro,
Pentagon Zero Miedo or something.
Penta El Zero Miedo.
Yeah. What was the reason behind the name change of that? Is AAA or?
I think it was some AAA stuff. I don't know. It's all bizarre.
CMLL. I'm not. I forget, but kind of stupid. But either way, it didn't matter. Like the guy got popular off Penta. He's known as Penta.
And finally, where do you see them ending up? Raw or SmackDown? And how would you debut them? Like, what feud would you do first?
Yeah. Okay. So like we keep fantasy booking that we're getting the machine guns in NXT because that seems to be the direction, at least for the first bit. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. Do we get
I think the easy thing to do is, insert them in Raw, have them with Ray, feud with Dom, the Judgment Day are your current tag team champions, that kind of thing. I think that's the easy way, but like it's also we got a Mexican guy, let's throw him in with the LWO. Together, or the other thing is just have them SmackDown, which is completely away from all that, and where I think you've got some DIY, Street Profits,
all those teams are
the Bloodline
great teams.
And all that, which would be interesting as well. But whether, especially with the language as well, whether it would just be easier to have them involved with Ray, at least to get them established off the bat.
Yeah, like, okay, we don't just want them being part of the LWO and all this stuff, because that's just what Triple H seems to do with a lot of his Latin stars. But I do want to see them tangle with Rey Mysterio. I need to see them either wrestle on a team with him or wrestle on a team against him, or vice versa. Same with Dragon Lee. So like there are some of those guys that you do want to see them wrestle them. I mean, like Joaquin Wilde and sorry, I forget
Del Toro.
Yeah, their main roster names. Like those two against Lucha Brothers would be an insane match. There's so many, but
then also you mentioned the masks. Think of the marketability of an LWO branded Pentagon mask.
I'll buy one.
It's like, yeah,
that's true. I do see the Terror Twins winning the tag titles, and like whether they eventually drop them or not. But maybe SmackDown would be a better like kind of fresh start. Just watch them have some good matches, get over on their own, and then I'm not sure. But either way, we'll probably see them with Rey Mysterio.
Yeah,
is what we'll see. But eventually, we'll get the Fraxium match, the Machine Guns versus Lucha Bros, whether New Day is still a thing, Usos versus Lucha Brothers will move mountains. Like there'll be some great tag team matches now that they've jumped into the mix, where it's like this is all the matches we wanted. And we're thinking of like, imagine if the Bucks weren't to re-sign with their own company and jump like Cody did, which they didn't, but you get a lot of like fresh, crazy tag team matchups. And now I think the Lucha Brothers are going to take that spot where you'll see some more really fun stuff. I'm genuinely excited to see what they do in WWE.
John Cena in the chat saying, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they don't use the Lucha Brothers name. Sort of basic and similar to Lucha House Party.
So yeah, that's fair. But
I just feel the way we've seen, Cody come into the company, Jade come into the company, even Sean Spears come into the company. I think they've been wanting to keep some of that outside branding. So I think they're going to keep their names personally.
Yeah. Keep the names, keep the masks, get rid of Alex Abrahantes.
Yep. Deal.
Book it.
Any other stuff from WWE before we move on to the other show?
Yeah, I think that was about it. I mean, NXT with a lot of the stuff hyping that up. We got Bad Blood in a few weeks, like we kind of mentioned. So I think all things are covered. We're not seeing the Lucha Bros show up anytime soon. I'm not sure if we see Ricky Starks show up anytime soon, but whether it's Machine Guns, I do see some surprises for the NXT first 2 weeks. So I'm not quite sure, but whether it's the Guns or whatever, I think we'll get some fun stuff.
All right. So we're on the road to AEW Grand Slam. We had brand new editions of Dynamite and Collision this week. We'll do some predictions for Grand Slam in a little bit, but let's start with Dynamite. What were your overall thoughts? We didn't watch this together this week, so I kind of haven't really talked to you about this week's Dynamite.
Yeah, it was fine. It wasn't necessarily one of my favorite or more memorable episodes of Dynamite. You started things off with a Chris Jericho match, which in 2024 is just that's a ballsy move to start your show with that, to be honest.
Rehashing a feud from 3-4 years
He's
ago,
just
which
really
the
mad.
feud wasn't great the first time round.
Yeah, he just wants his $7,000 back. I guess.
Yeah.
Again, those sale, what is it? The cruise profits aren't as high if he's really bugging Orange Cassidy for $7,000 from like 3 years ago or something.
I thought it was one of the better Jericho matches of recent time, but still,
Sure.
like, I can't get into Jericho right now, and especially opening the show with a 20-minute match, like, I just don't care at this point.
Yeah.
Especially this feud is so stupid. This character just is a complete miss in my mind. But yeah, not the less Jericho, the better for me at the moment.
Yeah, it wasn't. I'm not necessarily feeling this learning tree thing. It is funny because now you're seeing people do the high guys. So in some weird way, Jericho's like, oh, it's working, getting a reaction because people are saying my line. But yeah, stuff. There was a Yuta video. Well, no, the don't call them Blackpool Combat Club or whatever that we're calling these guys, the white shirt gang. Basically said, hey, Yuta, we know you're sad, but we actually have to defend these titles and you're going to have to fight. So then Yuta's like, oh man, I guess I'm going to.
I found Pac actually really creepy and reminded me of some villains in, horror movies or whatever, where they've just murdered someone and then turned to their friend as if nothing's happened. And it's like, Yuta, where you been? What's wrong, man?
Yeah.
What's going on? Come on, we've got work to do. We've got titles to defend. And I think they've got such a great, sinister vibe right now. My issue is, and I'm weird with Jon Moxley because I really like him. I love his promos. I think he's a great wrestler. I don't want to watch any of his matches, though, if I'm being brutally honest. And the idea of Danielson, Moxley, and potentially Moxley potentially being the one to end this reign doesn't excite me. And I'm not particularly interested in watching Jon Moxley title defenses either. But that being said, I am really enjoying all the work. And I kind of think you're making a group as sinister and deadly as this. You kind of do have to pull the trigger on them as well. So I'm a little torn with it because personally, I would much rather see Darby and Danielson at Wrestle Dream, but I feel it's too early to have Mox lose in this new gimmick.
Yeah, I love Jon Moxley, and I think it all stems from, unfortunately, the Blackpool Combat Club, because they tried to make him a heel when they were the Blackpool Combat Club, and it failed miserably because it's kind of like, hey, wait, actually, he's one of the stars that some of these people are paying tickets to see, and they want to sing along to Wild Thing. So that's why they changed the music now, because it's like, no, we have to really establish, he's got to try to murder him with a plastic bag to make sure this is the bad guy, which people are still like, nah, it's fucking Jon Moxley. He's cool. So it's like, it's a weird, hey, this is our bad guy now, but also we just cheer for him anyways kind of thing. So it's kind of a weird dynamic. And
I mean, it's a great two people to establish him as a heel, Darby and Danielson, who are probably your two biggest baby faces in the company.
Exactly.
Rather than going someone, a little less over where people are just going to cheer Moxley anyway. Yeah. I think that makes sense.
It's like we've seen the Danielson Mox match before. We've seen it a few times in AEW, where it's like they were good. It wasn't necessarily the most amazing. I think the difference in this is going to be Mox, the mean heel Mox, very established that I am now going to get rid of Danielson. So I think that's the different story. I'm also not necessarily that excited in that match, but I guess for the story,
he does wrestle like that anyway.
Yeah, we need to see that change. Yeah, it needs to be different. He can't just be doing what he was doing. He always bled anyways. So now he's got to take it to the next level and be very dastardly with it. And in turn, I guess that means he's taking the title from Danielson, which I don't think is necessarily the right move either. I think Mox would be better with this whole gimmick to help. It's going to help, get Marina established and help Claudio and Pac, which I think it can. But in doing so, it's they're kind of wrecking the Danielson storyline because you're in Washington. You have Darby, you have Bryan. Like, why aren't we just doing that match?
I get the feeling that maybe they don't have Danielson as long as they originally thought when they started this story. Because the fact that you've just weirdly changed this, we were going to get Darby and Danielson at this Grand Slam. The fact we've pivoted and we're getting Mox v Darby, and we're doing the McGuinness match with some build, but maybe not as much as we'd have wanted with it. I wonder if they don't have Danielson as long as they thought, and you're like, let's get the title on Mox and have Darby lose this match, and then it's Darby chasing that win over Mox, and then that is the triumphant moment early next year, World's End, next year, whatever, that Darby finally conquers that demon and beats Jon Moxley. It feels like they had everything sort of planned, it seemed, and then they've really just shuffled the deck the last couple of weeks, which I'm excited for the matches. It was just kind of weird how we got there.
Yeah, totally agree. It felt a little like change of plans, card subject to change. We're going to maneuver some things around and make the stories go a different way. But like Darby Danielson at Wrestle Dream seemed like it was just that would be a crazy big dream match there for that crowd, especially. But I'm imagining it's Moxley beating Darby again, and then getting that match from Danielson, and possibly beating Danielson, and possibly that's the last time we see him in AEW. It could be. I'm not sure, but
he's wrestling without a contract right now.
Yeah, he could show up on WWE, which I do imagine we get the end of Bryan Danielson, but the return of Daniel Bryan. Whether it be pretty soon, he could be involved with WrestleMania. But like, kind of weird that they went this way with Moxley. I'm looking at it two ways, because it's like the Nigel thing is like, cool, this is a match I'd watch. I want to watch this match. In the 2 weeks that you're building to it, I think you've done a good job. Nigel cut the promo on Collision. I just put it on right before we went live, and I thought it was really good and kind of going in the story direction of what we kind of assumed would be like, hey, I'm jealous of you. You got everything, and I became a commentator for Collision. You know what I mean? Like, it was a good promo, basically ripping at him. Like, clearly we are getting this match. We know Nigel wanted this match. We know Danielson's wanted this match for years. Finally, we're getting it. But still, wrestling fans are complaining. I'm like, oh, I'm not interested in this and that. And I kind of get it, because maybe you're not familiar with, like, this guy hasn't been wrestling. He's never been in WWE. He never really wrestled in AEW until All In. He had that match. Like, some people might not be familiar. I'm just also like, hey, why not get it out of the way? It's a big, cool match. Will Danielson drop the title? It's not even for the title, but like, just let them have the match, and then we can move on.
I do find fans funny, because obviously it's the asterisks, right? Like, if Danielson is cleared to wrestle, and you're hearing people go, oh, well, I don't want to buy a ticket in case it doesn't happen. It's like,
have you fucking watched wrestling before?
Come on, like WrestleMania 34. Oh, John Cena's just not going to have a match here. He's just going to sit front row the whole show. WrestleMania 31. Oh no, Bray Wyatt's just come out. Undertaker won't show up. Like, it's an AEW, especially, you have a really good track record of teasing something, i.e., the last dance with CM Punk, Mercedes Moné in Boston. Like, they've done it a lot. Like, anyone being like, oh, well, the match might not happen because he might not get cleared. Come on, man. Like, what's going on?
Yeah,
so that's that part of it doesn't bother me. But I do feel, I think Nigel's been doing a good job, one-sided, to get this feud going. I think there is more. I know AEW have put out like a little documentary and stuff like that tells you more of the bigger story. I would still have liked a bit more of it on TV. I would like, the main thing for me is, Nigel McGuinness retiring the day Danielson won the world title. And that being like pretty significant moment. The fact that Danielson lied about injuries to get to WWE when McGuinness was honest and his career was over. I think you could have hit more of that over the head. And I think one segment between the these two with Danielson's rebuttal and like actually getting it really to an emotional level would have really helped this, because as good as McGuinness's promos have been, there's still a bit of a comedic element to it, especially when he's on commentary, just calling him a clam digger and that sort of thing.
It's
like
he's
he
been calling for
switches
the
it
match.
on when he has, but like I don't think it hasn't reached the emotional depth that I think this feud could have. And
it's almost just like a quick bonus, like, hey, we got to throw this in.
It's weird positioning him as such a heel going into it when this is a triumphant moment. This is his first singles match in 13 years. It's against his like career rivalry opponent. There's so much going into it, and it feels like he's just trying really hard for heat. And I think it should be the other way around, where you go in as a fan understanding both people's side of it, you know, almost have a bit of, you know, that think talking smack Miz and Danielson, where it got really prickly between the two, and Nigel can go off about how he was honest about like his injuries, and Danielson could be like, well, you clearly didn't want it enough. Like, if you wanted it, you'd have lied. You'd have done what I did and become world champion, but you didn't because you were scared. And, you know, that kind of thing. And it could make you go in with a bit more of a 50-50 view of things. Whereas I think doing it just a one-sided build with McGuinness trying to position himself as a heel when we just want to cheer him, it hasn't done the build. And you and I know the story. We've seen the matches, the ROH matches and stuff. We know that. So we have an investment, but it still becomes a bit of the Tony Khan booking where I throw up the match graphic, and if you know, you know, and that's fine. Like, and it works. But maybe I think for this to really reach an emotional peak, I would have wanted a bit more on TV.
It's almost as if Tony Khan is like, hey, I'm just imagining that everyone who watches this watched Ring of Honor. I'm imagining anyone who watched AEW right now, it knows all of this. And if you don't, then you have to go and like look this up. It's almost like he thinks it's like, oh, well, this was like WCW. You saw them wrestle there, and now it's all these years later. It's like, it's a bit more niche. Like the Ring of Honor, like, what's it called? The Ring of Honor, like, tape library and lore and everything is like not as big as like some people maybe give it credit to. We like, there's hardcore wrestling fans who know way more about, you know, old school Ring of Honor than me or you and lots of others, but like it's smaller there. Like not everyone watched them wrestle. And sure, they promoted it by giving out videos. Their YouTube, they're stacking it. They put out like a 10-hour like best of Nigel, like they own the tape library, so like they're like, hey, get familiar. But you're right, I think they could have just spent like a little bit extra time on this to letting us know we're gonna get this match and having at least one face-to-face like promo battle, which I think would have done it like a whole lot more. Like, hey, I'm excited about this match. I think it'll be really good actually, but you could have done some things to make it better.
I'm aware as well that I might sound like a hypocrite, because I know in the past I've said, do your work. We all have Google. You can find out this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think there is a difference between just a random match on a Dynamite and Collision to, you know, this is a 20,000 seat venue. Okay, it's not a pay-per-view, but it's one of their marquee events of the year that they're really trying to sell tickets for. And it hasn't necessarily felt like a pay-per-view build.
Yeah.
And it feels more like, you know, Kenny Vikingo just throwing a graphic up and being like, it's going to be good. If you know, you know. And
if you know, you know. Yeah. I think the match will be good. Do they do the head spot in the
I hope
post?
not.
I think we do. I think we get the head spot, or at least they tease to go for the post spot.
They can tease it. They can certainly tease it. I don't want to see either of those guys cracking their skull on metal.
Well, I do. I want to see violence. No, I don't think we're going to get it, but they're going to tease it at least. So.
Fair enough.
I think it'll be a good match. Again, I like Nigel's promos. Think he's been working this match for a year, like on TV with the digs and everything to Danielson. So, like how we got here, that's kind of the story of AEW. How we get to the match, it's a bumpy road, but when we get to the match, it's usually pretty hella entertaining. So that'll be the case for this, I'm sure. But again, like we've traveled for Grand Slam. You've been twice. I've been to the first one, and now it's like instead of 20,000 people, there's like 4, 5, 6 maybe, which is like drastically different. And I wonder if this is the last one there for a little bit. Like take a breather, maybe, you know, like run Hammerstein, run like something cool and
well,
different.
they're doing Grand Slam
Brisbane
in Australia next year, obviously.
But that's February.
I think you can use this venue, but use it for a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Use it on a Saturday night when I know we prefer Sunday pay-per-views here at Poisonrana, but run it on a Saturday night when people don't have work the next day. And there is maybe transport running later in the evening to get back to the city, or you have the whole day. You're not rushing from your 9 to 5 to try and make it from Brooklyn to Queens or whatever. You know, it's it being a Wednesday night and then holding you hostage for 5 hours with that double taping. It's rough. Like I've done it twice and both times, and everyone we talk to, it's like, it's such a bitch to just get out of there, which I think you know, when you know the next day, well, I'm not doing anything tomorrow, it's Sunday. It's a little easier. And when it's a pay-per-view, you're promised something just a little bigger in scale anyway. So I think the venue's great. I think it's such a cool venue.
It was cool. It was super cool.
But maybe, the end of the Wednesday nights there.
Kind of going back onto stuff from Dynamite before maybe we go into the rest of the card. We have Hook versus Roddy is a feud that they're doing for the Grand Slam Collision. And on Dynamite, I had to look twice because I thought Hook was fighting Tattooed Jack, but it was JD Inc., which I'll always remember this guy because he was one of the most tattooed wrestlers I've ever seen. And his name flashes JD Inc., like INK. So that was I had to note that because for a second there I was like,
permanent gimmick to have.
Yeah, it's like, oh, what's your gimmick? Yeah, we've done that in TNA. There was like Inc. You weren't there, Davie, but trust me, it wasn't good. So we are getting
Trench. Whatever happened to Trench?
Was he the Swerve dude?
Yeah,
with Parker, right? Parker Boudreaux. So Hook and Roddy are going to feud, and they're going to have this match at Grand Slam, which is cool. I'm trying to think of other stuff that was noteworthy.
We had Ricochet versus La Beast Mortis.
Oh, man. This dude is fucking sick. Fuck all your favorite wrestlers. This guy...
We're talking about the Beast Mortis, right?
No, I was talking about Ricochet. Beast Mortos is... He's it. He's everything I need in wrestling and more. Okay. You got a silly gimmick? Yeah. What is it? Roar! Okay, cool. You got a cool looking mask? Cool. Why aren't they selling these masks?
It's AEW. They don't sell shit.
So stupid. So
they can't even sell tickets, man. They ain't selling.
So this guy's a bull who wrestles in a lucha style, and he roars. And now, allegedly, he's also a lawyer. I'm in.
Okay.
You missed that part.
I missed that bit.
Matt Taven referenced that this guy is also a lawyer. And now they're selling T-shirts that say Frank Mortos, attorney at law or something. So the reason I know they don't sell Beast Mortis masks is because I thought, Beast Mortis, the lawyer. I wonder if I could find a Beast Mortis mask. No, I cannot. So I thought that would be a good costume idea, though. Like a suit with just his fucking mask on it. So they're teasing that this guy is like teams with everyone. Like Roddy had him with the Undisputed Kingdom on Collision and stuff. But like, I imagine maybe because it was him and Roosh who were like victorious. So I wonder if maybe he sticks with like LIJ lads or whatever. But this is a highlight of my show every single week. Like this guy is incredible, man. Like you show a non-wrestling friend, Beast Mortos, they're going to be like, what the fuck is that? Holy shit. That's hardcore. This is sick. This dude wrestles in this thing. How does he wrestle in that thing? How does he wrestle that well in that thing?
It's crazy.
So I actually really liked his match with Ricochet. I thought once again, Ricochet was outshined by someone else because
I think
Mortos is so sick.
I think that's the thing. It's 2 weeks in a row. And I know like Sammy Guevara's stock is pretty low right now. Like, okay, he's got the ROH title thing going on. He's going to be having a match with Okada next week, which that's cool.
Yeah.
His stock's pretty low. I came out of that match, Sammy and Ricochet, being, kind of want to see Sammy versus Ospreay. And I certainly came out with this match this week being like, man, when we get to Ospreay Mortis, that's going to be sick.
I think we've seen, but like this guy needs to be clearly Tony, like he's the new toy because like this guy's been used on like everything and anything, but like rightfully so. Again, like it's so ridiculous. This guy's a bull, he roars, but when it comes to it, he's very exciting to watch. So he's one of my favorites. Like I have to watch his stuff now because he's just so fun. And I hope they continue with this. Is he or is he not a lawyer? Also, because that's just another I don't believe he is, but he could.
We need Beast Mortis t-shirts though on Chopped Tees.
We might need to make our own
ball face with a nice like French mustache or something going on.
What does he wear? He's wearing like kinky shit on it, but like a Beast Mortis. Are we calling him Beast Mortis or Beast Maurice?
I call him Beast Mortis, but
Beast Mortis. Yeah, put that on Chopped Tees, Dickie. We'll make one and work on that. But yeah, this guy's super great. So they did announce that not for Grand Slam, but for the week after, which is the 5th anniversary of AEW Dynamite. So 5-year anniversary show, and we're getting Will Ospreay versus Ricochet.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced with this run so far with Ricochet. I mean, obviously the Ospreay match is going to be the like make or break thing. I feel Ospreay's evolved so much since they had that Best of the Super Juniors thing. Yeah. And I would say Ricochet's regressed a bit. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad wrestler. Come on. Like, the guy's awesome. But I just think across the board in wrestling, so many people do what he does now. And those sequences that were like groundbreaking in the Best of the Super Juniors match, we see happen a lot now. So they can't just try and recreate what they did 5 years ago.
You know, they will do those spots though.
They'll do those spots. They'll do the callbacks, but I just still find I don't like Ricochet's gear right now. I think it makes him look old. You know, like Shawn Michaels moving from the tights to the baggier thing. It looks like he's just older, and not maybe. Yeah, it's not clicking with me, and this match will be the one that like makes or breaks it for me. But then where do you go after that? And I just think there's, you know, as I just said, Sammy and Mortis in the last 2 weeks, they're the ones I'm like, man, I kind of want to see that match instead down the line with Ospreay.
Yeah, we will for sure. But Ricochet, I think coming in, he wasn't, for me, he wouldn't be a game changer. He wouldn't be anything that's like, now he's the guy here or anything. I think it would take a long time if he ever gets near like world title. He could win. He could beat Ospreay, which in turn could help him get like this big push, but could maybe hurt Ospreay. I mean, you probably can't even hurt Ospreay just because he's so damn good. But I've not written him off yet. I've always liked it. I liked this match with Beast, but again, coming out of it, I was like, oh, I just want to see more of that guy. So I think the match with Ospreay will be good, but you're kind of right. Like, what do? You have to have some plans for this guy, and I feel like long-term booking in AEW seems to be a problem. I feel like they know what to do this week and next week and for the pay-per-view, but can't figure out where the story goes after that or how we get to making this story feel important. I feel like long-term storytelling and booking is something they need to maybe focus on and get people helping with the booking or the writing or whatever, because throwing a match graphic is cool for the hardcores, but you want to keep the train moving at all times. And they stall a lot. He has his favorites that he puts on TV and then they disappear for months and then gets booked on Collision. And you're like, oh yeah, this Sammy Guevara's in a bunkhouse match. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then he gets a match with Okada.
Did you see the bunkhouse match?
Yeah, I watched it.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah. And it's just like, there's weird things in AEW that I'm like, okay, like it's still great. I still my favorite to watch every week. This episode of Dynamite wasn't necessarily my favorite, but the main event though actually was fucking crazy. Actually, seeing Ospreay, Fletcher, Takeshita versus the Bucks and Okada. Like, dude, there was some crazy shit. That Rainmaker into the Blue Thunder Bomb was chef's kiss. And oh my God, I know we are going to Full Gear. Can we please don't give us Okada Takeshita just yet? Which I think is on the 5th anniversary as well. but like, oh my
you
God,
think they're doing it that soon?
I need to see this match. Like, if we can hold this off until Full Gear, like, please do, because
I
that's
think it'll
it for
be
me.
Wrestle Dream.
Is Wrestle Dream before that? Oh, it
Wrestle
is.
Dream's before that.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Do the rematch at Full Gear, because this match was crazy. I actually, this Dynamite was okay, but this main event had me like, what the hell is going on with all the Will Ospreay and the Bucks doing the crazy stuff? And Fletcher's no slouch either, man. That kid is very impressive and fun to watch. So I actually really got into this main event and made me just like want to watch the tag match this upcoming week at Grand Slam, which is going to be crazy. Gonna be crazy. It's going to be crazy with all these spots.
I'd put the title on them, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. That's the best thing you could do. And then have Ospreay drop maybe Ricochet wins by cheating, or he doesn't realize he was helped out.
I think a heel Ricochet would help. Like his promos are coming across heelish, and that's actually not Ospreay is such a likable baby face right now that have him. He's doing the whole like trying to big brother him and everything. So have Ricochet winning and then a low blow or something, like and turn him into a dickish heel, because he comes across that way online. So why not run with it? Like,
yeah, I mean, I feel like he definitely does. I feel like that might help him. They want to bring him in as a baby face first, but he has been, so maybe that wouldn't be necessarily a bad idea. But like match wise, there's some good stuff coming in the next little while. I think stories is still something that AEW lacks, but I'm looking forward to Grand Slam. The matches on this might not be as packed as some of the last years, but now we have Okada and Guevara.
I think they've actually built it up pretty nicely now. Just one sec. Sino's saying in the chat that you could also do Okada Takeshita on that Title Tuesday episode that's up against NXT if they wanted to put like a big hitting match on there. I do see Wrestle Dream being the one. But yeah, I think they've, after Dynamite and Collision this week, we've got a pretty nice card, I think, for Grand Slam.
Yeah, if I was in the New York area, I'd definitely be going, because you've got Sammy Guevara and Kazuchika Okada. You've got
in an eliminator match. So if Guevara wins, he gets a title match the following week on that 5th anniversary show.
Plus Moxley versus Darby for the AEW title slot match opportunity. Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness, which is like, that kind of sells itself there, I guess. The Young Bucks and Fletcher and Ospreay, which we were just saying is going to be an awesome match. The trios, which may or may not happen, with Wheeler kind of walking off, possibly. Mariah May versus Jeannie Pants, the magical girl, Yuka Sakazaki. And then this match, which is added, which I'm like, damn, I'd like to see this one. The Lumberjack strap match between the Last Outlaw, Jeff Jarrett, versus Hangman Page. The Yappa Pie strap match. And Jeff Jarrett cutting a promo on Collision, reminding all these young cats just how, in fact, to cut a wrestling promo, bringing up the old school strap matches and all this stuff, and says, back in my day, this is how we solved some problems. I'm so excited for this, because Hangman, I'm predicting, reminds us where he got his name Hangman from, because it's a strap match.
Yeah.
I feel like the Last Outlaw may have his last appearance on Dynamite.
A bit of a Stan Hansen, Terry Funk.
Absolutely, is what my brain went to.
I watched Collision just before watching this, and this promo.
How good was that promo?
Yeah, we've been waiting. Like, okay, when is this match going to happen? What's happening? And then this stipulation, a lumberjack strap match, and just Jeff Jarrett, he's having like such an incredible run right now, and has earned this spot. I think. Like, you can always say, pushing old guys or whatever. I love the mix. I love having your veterans mixing it in. But I don't like when it's unbelievable. I like Jarrett being this, I used to be the guy, but I've still got a bit of fight in me. And what is it? He's like, I don't even care if I win. I just want to beat the shit out of you. Like, love it. And this match, I think you could maybe even open the show with this. I think that definitely, like, this with the tag match, the Danielson McGuinness and the Moxley Darby Allin, that's a pretty stacked show.
This is the best one. This is the best one since the first one, like, easily. Like, even the supporting, like, again, we selfishly, Kenny and Brian, that was just a match that like I still think about. Is so good. But this is probably the second best one.
I would say like the first one, yes, you had that Kenny Bryan match, which is still one of the greatest AEW matches of all time. I think top to bottom, this is probably a better card.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the first one we had Kenny and Bryan, 30-minute draw, MJF and Lexus King, Malachi and Cody Rhodes, Sting and Darby versus FTR. I remember that being pretty fun.
That was fun.
And Britt versus Ruby Soho. And then Punk wrestled on the Rampage, and a lot of the other undercard people got on. I remember it being a really fun show, don't get me wrong, but they gave us Kenny and Bryan out the gate, which made me go, I'm smitten. I don't need anything else after that, but I'm going to stay for the show. And then we were like, oh boy, we're tired. So then you went.
Yeah, I remember waking up and there was Dan Lambert,
Dinosaur,
UFC lads against
dinosaurs,
against Jericho, and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So like, I think this year's is the better looking card from the last few for sure. And again, it's unfortunate they'll have the like least amount of people in this crowd, but maybe like we've been saying for what seems like years now is like promotion and tactics and help, gain interest in ticket sales and all this kind of stuff. Give tickets out for free at this point. Like, I don't know, just get people in there and watching and filling.
Okay, this is what I was thinking. Like, maybe not do the free tickets, but free shuttle service. How about that?
Do they do that? I don't think they do that. Yeah.
But like, be like, buy a ticket and you can get on our minibus to take you to and from. Because that's the issue. Everyone I've spoken to, like, yeah, go. It's just fucking ball ache to get to and from.
And on Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Like, and on a Wednesday night. So, yeah.
Think outside the box, guys.
Like, it's a pretty good card, and I'd go if I was there. But we chose to go to Full Gear, which is in a month or two or something like that. So hopefully they load that one up, which obviously it's a pay-per-view and will be. This should just become a pay-per-view at some point. But
and then the Collision Grand Slam, we have listed the Conglomeration, Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, and Orange Cassidy versus the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho, Big Bill, and Brian Keith in a Tornado Trios match, which could actually be pretty fun. I wonder if we get anything with Big Bill, being in Queens and stuff.
Oh, yeah, and we can't forget about Saraya's Rules match.
Oh, yeah.
What's a Saraya's Rules match? You're only allowed to...
Saraya is allowed to use weapons, close fists, not make use of the traditional 10 count, and use rope breaks. However, Jamie Hayter is not. And then the Hook Roddy Strong match as well.
Right. I thought Saraya's Rules were something different, like her social media. I think they're pretty much saying we know she's married to like this like problem, talented singer dude or whatever, and we're just gonna call her the problematic icon or whatever they're calling her, or something like. Kind of weird that you're using that. It's kind of like Jericho, where it's like we know he's shit right now, so we're gonna just make him shit on purpose. It's like I don't know if it's working how you think it's working, but
okay. Sino is saying that Wikipedia is wrong, and it's Hook and Roddy on Dynamite and Okada Sammy on Collision.
No, you're wrong.
Whatever.
Yeah. Either way, he's not going. So.
Oh, I do just want to say, I loved Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes mashup theme.
Okay.
Good. Yeah. It sounded good.
Sammy Guevara.
Yeah.
Isn't that Dustin's is like Green Day, right?
It's Green Day with Sammy Guevara. It's my time to fly. It's sick.
Best tag team I've ever seen. Sammy Guevara and Goldust.
Shall we quickly go through predictions? Like we've mentioned the card, but maybe.
Yeah, sure. So Brian beats Nigel.
Yeah. I think maybe we should try and just burn that Christian contract thing. Like maybe Brian beats Nigel. Like Nigel now respects him. There's an attack. Christian tries to cash in. Nigel fights him off. The contract is now gone. We don't need to worry about a Christian Cage title run. And you can have a feel-good moment of Brian and Nigel finally, embracing.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I see Nigel and him having a great match and a great moment, but I don't need Christian as champ right now either, so could maybe get rid of that. Okay, Moxley and Darby. We kind of said earlier that we think Moxley's winning this, thus getting the match with Danielson at the pay-per-view.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be sick to see Darby and Danielson. It's crazy that we actually haven't gotten that match, at least on a full scale. And like, that's something that needs to happen. So hopefully that does. But I kind of see with this story with Mox that he takes it here. You said earlier that you think Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay will defeat the Young Bucks for the tag titles.
Well, who else is there to face them at this point? And
I mean,
this run has been fucking dead.
Yeah.
So I think, using it as a prop, using it as something to cause friction between the family. I don't know what Mark Davis' status is. The fact that they used Aussie Open's finisher, I think that's maybe a tease of something to come. I think it makes more sense to put the title on them, just storyline wise.
Yeah, storyline wise, they also did they threw up the like United Empire thing. So I imagine they're gonna leave the family like for sure. I know Ospreay has, but is still kind of dangling in there with them. Same with Takeshita. It's like they're baby faces really until something happens where they're not anymore. But I think I was reminded this past Dynamite of how much fun it is to watch the Young Bucks super kick party on Will Ospreay, because that their interactions in that match are crazy. And I know they're going to do some crazy nutso shit in this one. So, because I think back to like that PWG match, they're all in AEW right now. What was it? Adam Cole, the Bucks, Ospreay, Ricochet, and who was the third guy in that match? Oh man, that's gonna kill me.
Sorry, from the PWG?
Yeah.
Wasn't it Seidel?
Matt Seidel, that's right. Yeah. He's in AEW as well. So like those guys know how to do some crazy stuff. So I'm looking forward to that one. And I would do a title change, because I think Ricochet should take the other title off him like the following week.
Yeah.
Sammy and Okada. I think Okada beats Sammy. I think that's.
Yeah, the only thing is that they've said when the date will be for the match for the actual title. So whether you have advancement with Takeshita, like Sammy doesn't seem the right guy to get a pin on Okada, but it's Continental Championship rules. So I don't know if it's a draw, whether that means Sammy gets a shot or not, because it's the 20-minute time limit, right? So
right.
Yeah, I feel like we could get that match again the following week.
We really need Dustin versus Okada. That's what we need instead of Sammy, instead of that. But yeah, I see.
Okay, I'm saying Sammy then by shenanigans.
I'm saying Okada should have signed with WWE. If you're telling me he's about to job to Sammy Guevara. Sorry, it just came to my head. I'm like, wow. Okay, that's a sentence you just said. You heard it here, folks. I didn't say it.
Not every loss is a job. Come on.
Fucking Rainmaker losing to the fucking Panda Head. You're fucked.
Hey, we can't agree on everything.
No. It's just funny. Like, you're probably right, dude. You're probably right, dude. Let's make a bet out of this. Like, you're actually like Tony Khan is a sicko. He's probably booked this guy to pin Okada. No, I don't see that happening. But like in a weird way,
I'm not saying pin. I'm not saying pin. I'm just saying some way we get this match again the following week.
I agree on that. I guess I agree on that. Mariah May and Yuka.
Mariah May.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. Jeff Jarrett versus Hangman. I think Hangman could lose the match
via murder.
Hangman is hanging Jeff Jarrett in this match, so Kurt Angle will be watching joyously. I think we went through the whole thing there on the main.
Well, it's the trios match.
Oh, right. I feel like
we don't even know who it's against, do we?
It'd be a cool way to get the trios titles on someone else, like a private party and whatever that storyline is, but
it's too early.
It's kind of weird with whatever's going on. So we got to
play with this Yuta thing more.
Yeah, we got to play it out a little bit lower. I've liked Yuta in this. This is the best he's been. Like the emotional side of him, and like it's been good. So yeah, so that's the Dynamite. At least that's what Wikipedia says. We mentioned the conglomeration Tornadoes trio against the Learning Tree. I guess the Learning Tree win that one. I don't know.
I'm going conglomeration.
Yeah.
Way more fun.
Jamie Hayter versus Saraya. I think Hayter wins that one, obviously.
Yeah,
and Hook should beat Roddy to retain.
Yeah.
As well. But bigger question is where is Beast Mortiz booked on this show? Why isn't he in one of these? He's one of the lumberjacks or what? He better be in this show.
Yeah, he might be a lumberjack, or he could be have him against BCC.
Wow. That'd be pretty
Just
sick.
him. Just him against all of
He
them.
could win still.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's our predictions for Grand Slam this Wednesday. Reminder that you, Davie, you'll be going live Thursday.
Yes. Thursday at 3:00.
Okay, Thursday at 3, right here on the Poisonrana YouTube. Audio will be out later here on this very feed.
I've got a few questions from the chat. Let's run through them quickly. Thoughts on the new Deonna Purrazzo Mob Wives stable? Who else would you add to it besides Taya Valkyrie?
Okay, so she's doing like a Wives of Jersey Mob, like those reality shows. But then she's got Taya Valkyrie, who's a Canadian who like lives in Mexico. So she's now acting like she's some like
she acts like a Jersey girl.
I guess so. I don't know.
Hey,
it's
we
weird.
talked about who was it on the Texas trio? No, what were they called on that WCW review where none of them were from that place?
Yeah, so it's pretty funny that that's the case. Like it gives something to do. I think that's a pretty funny character with those shows are popular. So you could do crossovers and get the wives of those shows on here and stuff. But like Deonna's also what would their name be? Like Wives of Jersey Wives? Or I guess they don't have to be wives, but they are wives.
Mob Wives would be cool. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, Mob Wives.
But yeah, who else would you have join that? I can't think of a.
Well, like I watched WoW, and they had the gimmick on WoW as well, where it was like basically Tony D'Angelo and the girl. I'm blanking on her name now. She was in some NXT segments with Tony as well, so there was some crossover. But I thought she was really in the part of like a Jersey mob wife or whatever. So
I'd say go completely left field. Abaddon.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. That's Adriana Gambino. Thank you, Sino, in the chat. Yeah, she was great. But yeah, not necessarily think they'll go that direction.
No,
but
no.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some more. GCW cut ties with Zilla Fatu.
Oh,
WWE
right.
Bound.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a Fatu, so yes.
So yeah, this guy's done this a few times with GCW and some indie shows where he's just no sold, and then he was seen like at SmackDown or whatever. I think that was the case where people were like, wait a second, he was there. Why wasn't he at these shows? So clearly this pissed them off, and they have to put this out saying we've cut ties with him, which lead people to believe that frees him up for being signed by WWE. And I don't know exactly whose kid he is, but I just keep saying Rikishi just there's just a factory of wrestlers, these Samoans. Does a Samoan ever get born and grow up to be like a doctor or anything? Like they just all become pro wrestlers on the Isle of Samoa. I did a Isle of Samoa project when I was a young kid, simply because I was like, The Rock and Umaga are from there. So I got a really good mark on it. But nice. It's interesting that Zilla, this happened, because it's like, that's kind of shitty. Like you should go through with your bookings.
Yeah. And I wonder how like WWE have always kind of respected people finishing their bookings and stuff. Right. So I wonder if that could have a negative effect, maybe.
Sino's letting me know that Zilla is actually Umaga's son. So that's he's definitely he's crazy. He's wild. He holds the title in his mouth. I love Umaga. So it's cool if this guy's any good, like to bring in more of these guys. Solo ain't cutting it. So
no. And then it was announced Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, hasn't been forgotten. She is, in fact, returning to AEW on that 5th anniversary show.
Nice.
So, I think that's been a little, I don't know, gray cloud, maybe. Just, a stinker of a match at Wembley. She had the suspension leading up to it, and then she's just been gone with no real mention. So the fact that they're bringing her back, interesting. Definitely some weird stuff going on there with Britt. Yeah,
that's kind of odd, but maybe she'll cut a promo and say like, hey, I love AEW and so forth. But
it's in Pittsburgh as well, that show.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. She'll get a good reaction. Spinning back to GCW. I know we've booked our trip to Full Gear for November. GCW on the same day of Full Gear, Saturday, November 23rd at 2 p.m. are doing a show that they're advertising now. GCW Dream On, taking place inside American Dream, the mall.
With Aerosmith?
No, that would be pretty. That's definitely the theme that they're using, though, Dream On. And they've advertised like all day fan fest inside this mall. Kurt Angle being the main guest of honor. I don't believe he's wrestling, but he's on the poster. But for me, they've advertised Zilla Fatu's on the poster. They're going to have to do a Photoshop of that. And Santana Jackson, my favorite. So I looked up, what is this American Dream Mall? This mall has roller coasters inside of it.
What?
Has a Shrek water slide inside of it. So for anyone going to Dream On, we might have a few of us going to that, because you had me at Shrek roller coaster or water slide, but Santana Jackson as well. I just thought that was interesting for anyone going to Full Gear. It's like Google says 20-minute drive from this mall to Prudential Center. So you could possibly hit up a lot of wrestling in one day.
You ain't ever seeing me at a GCW ever again. So sorry. Like, ain't happening.
Yeah, I'm still...
I'm flying anyway at that point, I think. But yeah.
Yeah. But Dream On.
But cool.
Guys.
All right. And finally, yes, congratulations to our boy Brooks Jensen on getting married yesterday.
Wow.
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
Thank you, Sino, for reminding us. And
thank you.
Being a great executive producer today in the chat. We love you and appreciate
you. Sino. We appreciate everyone out there listening, whether you were in the YouTube chat today. Thank you. Check out our YouTube page. Hit that subscribe. Follow us on all the podcast platforms and social media. Poisonrana podcast. Give us a follow and subscribe to all the other shows that we got on this channel. You'll be live Thursday at 3 p.m. chatting about Grand Slam here, so look for that. Plus Shot in the Dark, where Sino covers you in 15 minutes or less on all the other wrestling out there, including WoW, returning for their new season in a brand new arena, brand new everything. I'm sure he's got some thoughts on that. Plus, up next, every Tuesday on the Post Wrestling feed, we'll be back 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time, chatting about NXT, the go home to the CW Network edition. In a weird, strange way. The last episode on the network, as far as we're kind of concerned, we'll still be watching on the network. But yes, lots and lots of podcasts. Poisonrana.ca, at Poisonrana Pod, and Poisonrana Patreon as well. You check out all the other shows that we got going on, because the podcasting never stops, just like the wrestling never stops. So there you go. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So take care. Goodbye. Be safe. And as Roman Reigns would say, you're in my way of life.
Ahoy!